What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. We're back at it with a bunch of Blazer games this week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We got you covered with the post-game shows. We got you covered today with a very real conversation about when the Blazers should start seriously tanking. Should it be right now? Should it have been earlier? What should the goals for the rest of the season be? We're going to have that conversation after picks against the spread. We got 8 games for picks against the spread. Eric will not be joining us, unfortunately. And yeah, maybe I'll get around to taking your questions as well. Let me know how your guys' Mondays are going in the live chat. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us over here on the second channel. Javon says cat sighting. Holy freak. Yeah, that is a cat. That is a cat. I messed up unmuting my mic because I was distracted by the cat right before going live. So shout out to the cat. Hopefully the cat will bring me good luck in picks today because it's been a little bit rough. And yes, that is a segue. That is a transition into the picks against the spread standings. Chat, you guys continue to lead it. 3-6 day. Doesn't look that good, but honestly, it wasn't that bad considering everybody else struggled except Jackson. Jackson, Javon, Brendan, the only people above 500. Jackson 7-2, so he gained some ground. He's now only 4.5 games away from finally getting out of last place. I'm rooting for him. And then chat, you guys continue to lead this thing. 3 games up on Crushables, 5.5 up on Eric, 8.5 up on Trevin and Brendan, 9.5 up on Javon, and 10 games up on me. I had a 2-7 day. It was brutal. Aeromancer, a 1-7 day. Trevin, a 1-8 day. We are slumping big time. So if you're picking games on BetUS, I would pick the opposite of what the consensus picks at this point because we are in a massive slump. 48% win percentage right now. We were 42-74 on Thursday. Hopefully we can turn it around. This is definitely the worst collective year we've had in 5 years of doing this? So hopefully we can improve today with 8 games on the docket. All right, let's jump into the first one of those games. We have the Detroit Pistons, winners of 6 games in a row. They're hosting the Los Angeles Clippers. They are 2.5-point home favorites. Injuries for this game. Let's see here. Out for the Clippers, Ben Simmons, Norman Powell, and Kawhi Leonard. Out for the Pistons, Jaden Ivey and Simone Fontecchio. I'm just going to say right now, this is going to be my double down. We got 4 games starting at 4:10. I'm going Pistons. That's my double down. Eric's going Pistons. Trevin's going Pistons. We got Javon, Pistons. We got Connor going Pistons. Is Arrow here to help me with picks, or Javon or Connor, do you want to do it, man? Because I definitely don't want to be looking through Discord right now. Right now, chat, 60% of the vote on the Pistons. Connor says, I can try. Yes, please do. Please do. That would be greatly appreciated. Because I don't know where Arrow is. I'll tag him, though. Normally he lets me know when he's not going to be here. Arrow is late again. Yeah. Yes, Goatmond Muse. Yes, he is. We need to form an NBA team alliance between the Warriors and Blazers against the Fakers, y'all. I think I'm good. I think I'm okay. Warriors crushed many of my dreams before, so I don't think that's gonna work out. All right, Connor, just get me on the next one. I'll go through the ones here. We got Pistons for Jackson. This is not going to be easy. We got Poisons for Crushables. We got, let's see here. Pistons for Zach. The thing is, Arrow didn't even get his picks in. That's the crazy part. That's a first. We got Pistons for Zach. I already said that. Let's see here. We got Clippers for Steven. Clippers 4503. We got Pistons for Brendan. And no arrow. Alrighty. Chat, it's 50-50 right now. We got 8 votes, so next vote will break the tie. If you have not voted in the chat poll, vote for the Clippers or the Pistons. One person out there will wield all the power on this game. Get GP 2 weeks off your team and then we'll talk. Yeah, exactly. No GP 2 weeks. Alright, we got the Clippers for chat. The Clippers bringing it back for chat. Another cat sighting. All right, game number 2. We got the Indiana Pacers hosting the Denver Nuggets. Denver a 4.5-point road favorite in this one. Out for the Nuggets. Peyton Watson, Deron Holmes, and Vlatko Konkar. Out for the Pacers. Isaiah Jackson and TJ McConnell. All right, Javon on it. Thank you, Javon. Appreciate you, brother. Chat, there's your poll. I'm just going to take the home team that's playing well. That's the Indiana Pacers. We got Nuggets for 503, Zach, Eric. Pacers for Jackson, Crushables, Trevin, Steven. We got Pacers for Javon, Pacers for Connor. And then Javon Brendan's at the top above the text screenshots. All right, Brendan is going with the Nuggets. Thank you. And chat is going with the Nuggets. 75% of 4 votes, only 4 votes. Brutal. Brutal. But we'll see if it's the right pick. Game number 3. We got the Philadelphia 76ers hosting the Chicago Bulls. The Sixers, 5-point home favorites. Injuries for this game. Out for the Bulls, Patrick Williams, Jalen Smith, Ayo Dosunmu, and Nikola Vucevic. Out for the Sixers, Jared McCain, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Justin Edwards, and Joel Embiid. Chat, there's the poll. The funny thing is Discord says arrows online too. That's the funny thing. We got Bulls for Connor. Bulls for Brennan, Crushables, Jackson. I can't in my right mind take the Sixers at this point. I'm going Bulls. Discord's online system is whack. Yeah, I know. All right. Sixers, we got 503, Steven, Javon, Eric, Trevin. So we just need Zach's pick. Chat, it looks like, is going to go with the Bulls, 71% of the vote. I'm glad we confirmed that Arrow is alive, and he just got in his picks. All right. So he went Pistons, which makes this a clean-looking 10v3 in favor of the Pistons. Game number 2, he went Nuggets, making this a 7v6 in favor of the Pacers. And game number 3, he went with the Chicago Bulls. All right, and then Zach was Sixers, which makes this a 7v6 in favor of the Bulls. Another split vote. Game number 4, the Final Four, 10 p.m. tip-off time. We got the Washington Wizards hosting the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets 2.5-point road favorites. Injuries for the Nets. Out is Cam Thompson, D'Angelo Russell, DeAnthony Melton, and Noah Clowney. And then out for the Wizards, Sadiq Bey, Malcolm Brogdon, and Alex Sarr. Brogdon has barely played this year. I'm just going to take the Wizards. Connor's going Wizards. We got Eric going Nets. We got Zach, Brendan 503 going Nets. Crushables and Arrow also going Nets. Let's go, Connor. Me and Connor versus the world. The weather's been crazy today. It just got a lot darker outside. It's been going back and forth between being very dark and sunny. That's the Pacific Northwest for you. We got Wizards for Javon. We got Wizards for Jackson. And Wizards for Trevin. Chat. It's going Nets. 71% of the vote. Steven. What'd Steven go? Let's see here. Steven went with the Wizards as well, which makes this another 7v6. This one's in favor of the Nets. That's 3 straight in a row. Scrunch says thunderstorm warning for Washington, Oregon. It said at 1:15 it was supposed to start thunderstorming, and there was none, so I don't know if I believe it. All right, we're on to the 4:40 tip-off time game. The Atlanta Hawks are hosting the Miami Heat. The Hawks only 1.5-point home favorites. Out for the Heat, Drew Smith, Kevin Love, Nikola Jovic. Out for the Hawks, Kobe Buffkin, Jalen Johnson, Vic Krejci, and Larry Nance Jr. Chat, there is your poll. I'm going to take the Heat. I'm pretty sure I pronounced Vic Krejci's name right. It's something along those lines. I know I'm close enough. It's not an Ananoon boy type thing. So, happy about that. Brendan is going Heat. 503 going Heat as well. We got Eric and Arrow going Heat. I think this might be the first game I agreed on with Eric. Oh, I agreed with him on the Pistons. I don't know if me and Chat have agreed on anything. I think maybe 1 out of the 4. All right, Arrow was the other person. Right now, Chat's liking the Heat. Let's see, we have Brendan on the Heat. I already said that. Hawks for Jackson, Crushables, Trevin, Zach, and Steven. Connor's looking up Vic Krejci's pronunciation instead of picking the game, but I respect it. Thank you for the assistance. Krejci? I don't even know. Can a Warriors fan join picks against the spread tour? Yeah, you vote in the chat poll. We got Hawks for Javon. We got Heat for Chat. And we got Heat for Connor. Let me end the poll once again. Once again, we have a 7v6. This one in favor of the Heat over the Hawks. That's 4 straight 7v6s in a row. You meant as a mod or something. No, I'm not just going to randomly moderate a random account, man. These guys have been mods for years. All right, we don't just... Yeah, let me just make a new box on the graphic for you, and then, you know, the 100 games we've picked, I'll just make up a record for you. All right, next game we got OKC hosting Minnesota. OKC 11.5 point home favorites. Out for the Wolves, Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and Rudy Gobert. Out for the Thunder, Nikola Topic, AJ Mitchell, Chet Holmgren. Yeah, the last thing we need on this graphic is more boxes. 13 people's already a lot. Yes, maybe next season, yes. Connor going Timberwolves. We got Wolves for Brendan Eric Jackson. I'm going to go Thunder. So is Arrow, Crushables, Trevin, Zach, Steven, and 503. Javon is going to go Wolves. Man, we're going to lose our 7v6 streak because chat is going with the OKC Thunder. 67% of the vote, making this an 8v5. Still about as split even as we've had a Picks Against the Spread stream all season long. Game number 7, it's your Portland Trailblazers on the road to take on the Jazz, and the Blazers, 7-point road favorites. 7-point road favorites. I did not believe I was going to say that about the Blazers this year. It was kind of wild to put their logo in a Picks Against the Spread graphic. Injuries for this game. Out for the Blazers, Matisse Thybulle, DeAndre Ayton, and Robert Williams III. Out for the Jazz, Taylor Hendricks, Colin Sexton, John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, and Walker Kessler. Blazers fan says, I'm telling you, it's a trap game for the Blazers. Yeah, the Blazers, the last time they played the Jazz, with the Jazz missing a bunch of people, the Jazz beat them by 40 points in Portland. So, Portland has to cover a whole 7-point spread this time. Interesting spread line, man. Interesting stuff. But the Blazers are better than they were back then. I'll take the Blazers. So is everybody's going to take the Blazers on this one. I already feel it. We got Brendan. We got Connor. We're all going to get screwed on this game. 503, Zach, Eric. At least we'll get screwed together. Trevin, Crushables. This is going to be an island for anyone. Jackson and Arrow. Oh, I already know who it's going to be an island for. Jazz for Steven. Oh man, it's getting windy outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Javon doesn't want it to be a Steven Island. He also wants to go Jazz. Chat is going to go Blazers. 73% of the vote. Which makes this an 11v2 in favor of the Blazers in the final game of the day. We got the Sacramento Kings hosting the Charlotte Hornets. The Kings 11-point home favorites. Out for the Hornets, Mark Williams, Grant Williams, Josh Okogie, Brandon Miller, Trey Mann, and Daquan Jeffries. And then for the Kings, they have nobody on the injury report. See, the Kings don't have a Toumani Camara to lock up LaMelo Ball. They have no defense. The Hornets kind of suck, man. I'm going to take the Hornets, though, I guess. I don't feel good about it, but they're going to want to bounce back after that 53 point loss they had to the Blazers. We got Eric going Hornets. We got Crushables going Hornets. Trevin going Hornets. So is Steven and Brendan. And Jackson. All right. So we already got 7 votes for the Hornets. So this is already going to be in favor of the Hornets. We got Kings for 503, Zach Arrow. Super Stormy and PDX2. Nice, nice. I like thunderstorms. Connor's going Kings. Chat is going Kings. 78% of the vote. Is this their double down? Javon going Kings. So we're bringing it back for the Kings. We got another 7v6. This time in favor of the Hornets over the Kings. And then as we move on to double downs, we already got Zach and Jackson on the Blazers. I already took the Pistons. So myself, Eric, Zach, Pistons. We got 503 on the Nuggets, Crushables on the Pacers, Steven on the Jazz, Brendan on the Bulls. I can grab Arrow's pick. Arrow is doubling down on the Thunder. I'm just waiting to hear some thunder at this point. Look how much darker the stream is right now. I gotta turn on the light. There we go. Erica's Pistons. Yeah, I just need Connor and Javon and chat. Chat I can find. Kings was 77%. I don't think anything was higher. Bulls were 75. Nuggets were 75. Clippers 55. Yeah, chat's double down is going to be the Sacramento Kings. Yeah, I already plugged them in before the stream just because it's quicker by myself to have it done before the stream instead of trying to do it all at once. Damn, it's almost nighttime already. It's not even because it's almost nighttime. It's because the clouds are super dark here, man. Super dark. We got Javon going Wolves. He's going to be by himself there. And then, is it too late to pick the Bulls? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Where I used to stream at, there was a ton of tall trees around me, so it would get sketchy when it got super windy. Here, that is not the case, which is nice not to have to worry about that. Connor going to double down on the Miami Heat. Javon says he's not confident in any of his picks. I'm feeling very confident today. I think I go at least above 500 today. So Connor by himself with the Heat. So people like the Pistons and the Blazers today. Everybody else kind of on their own. That concludes picks against the spread. Thank you for your participation. Alrighty. So we have to have a real conversation about the Portland Trail Blazers and whether or not they should start tanking. Because this 3-game stretch the Blazers have coming up is one that might see them favored more than just tonight. They're favored tonight, 7-point road favorites against the Utah Jazz, but they also play 2 other tanking teams, those teams being, let me find them here. Those teams being the Wizards and the Nets. So they play the Jazz tonight, they play the Wizards on Wednesday, they play the Nets on Friday. Then their schedule gets tougher. They got the Cavs. Then they got the Sixers. I guess the Sixers suck. I mean, that's a winnable game. So you're looking at these next 5 games. They're all on the road, but the Blazers might be favored in 4 of them. Probably not. Probably not against the 76ers, but that's going to be a toss-up. The Blazers could realistically go 4-1 over their next 5 games. If the Blazers go 4-1 over their next 5 games, they'd be 28-34. I mean, that's a decent record, I guess, but at the end of the day, the 10th seed in the West is 500. Okay? Sacramento Kings are 28-28. They're probably going to beat the Hornets tonight. They're going to be a game above 500. In order for the Blazers to just reach 500, they have to go 17-8 the rest of the season. To get above 500, they have to go 18-7. That, to me, is a very tall order, okay? The problem is with these tanking games taking place now instead of at the end of the season potentially is it could give the Blazers some false hope that they could push for a 10th seed, which then prolongs their tank, and at the end of the year, they don't get the 10th seed, but their odds in the lottery are worse because of the stretch they're about to go on. Now, if they lose against some of these tanking teams, then that's just going to be the writing on the wall for this team. Like, yeah, you're also one of them. You're also one of them. And it's time to be one of them, right? Regardless of how you feel about how good or not this team is, the goal should not be to get a 10th seed. The goal should not be to get a 10th seed. I think we can all agree, what is the best case scenario for the Blazers in the next 6 months? And we should all agree on them getting the number 1 overall pick and getting Cooper Flagg. That is the best case scenario for the Blazers over the next 6 months. It is not better to get a 10th seed, get a play-in, and then end up with, I don't know, Con Knipple instead. Okay? At Blazers Uprise, Eric and I, we've been very long-term approach towards the future, caring more about that and less about, oh, maybe we can get a 10th seed. Because what are you really getting a 10th seed for? Like I said, this is going to be a real conversation. What are you getting a 10th seed for? What is the point? You're not really getting a ton of playoff experience for the young guys. And at the end of the day, just to make the playoffs, you have to win 2 road games in a row. And if you somehow accomplish that, okay, cool, you get some playoff experience, but basically you just get destroyed in the first round by the OKC Thunder. Why are we focusing on a long shot chance to get destroyed by the Thunder in the first round? Why? What is the purpose of it? Okay? I don't understand. I don't understand. And I think at some point the Blazers are going to have to look at the writing on the wall and say, you know what? We need to prioritize our future instead of trying to get a 10th seed. Especially given that it's going to be next to impossible to actually climb all the way up to 10th. The Blazers are 4.5 games behind the Sacramento Kings right now. Okay, it's already a really tall order. The Blazers might have to win 43, 44 games in order to get the 10th seed. They're not going to go 20-5 the rest of the year. I know it's not the fun thing. I know thinking about play-ins and extra basketball is fun. Listen, I would love to be talking about post-game shows, talking about a play-in race just for the fact that, we haven't had an opportunity to talk about standings races in April. Normally it's just been tanking, and it's just been about tanking players and who the Blazers are going to draft and what they're going to do in the offseason. So trust me, I would love to be able to talk about a standings race, but it has to make sense. It has to make sense. I think the Blazers should honestly start tanking now. The only thing that goes against maximizing their lottery odds that makes sense for the long-term future is the development of young players on their team already. Okay? If you're playing Scoot Henderson, Shane Sharp 35 minutes a game, and they're winning you games and they're hurting your lottery odds, at least them developing and breaking out and giving them a bunch of opportunity and a bunch of minutes is good for the future as well. There's really only 2 things that matter for the future right now for the rest of the season. Developing the players already on the roster and maximizing the Blazers' lottery odds. Okay? The problem is the Blazers are not maximizing the development of the young players on their roster anyway, and if they're chasing a 10 seed, there's going to be the issue of Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson not playing enough minutes and not having their development maximized, right? At the end of the day, you should maximize the direction you're headed in. The Blazers are not going to make noise this year. Hopefully they can make noise next year or the year after, right? The problem with this 5-game stretch coming up is if the Blazers win some games, get within 2 games of the 10th seed, they're going to be playing Jeremy Grant 35 minutes a game, trying to win as many games, trying to get a 10th seed. Chauncey Billups is going to want to win as many games. That's what the Blazers are likely going to run into, because I think they're going to win at least 3 of the next 5 games. I could see them winning 4 of the next 5 games. The flip side of this is you look at some of the games today. You have the Wizards playing the Nets, okay? The Nets, 21-35. The Blazers, 24-33. The Blazers are only 2.5 games away from the Nets. They also play the Nets coming up. So if the Nets win this game, the Blazers lost tonight, the Blazers will be 1.5 games back. They have an opportunity in this 5-game stretch to make up some ground on a team like the Nets, on a team like the Sixers, who are 20-36. Have Joel Embiid questions surrounding them. But the Blazers could still definitely catch in the tank race. The Blazers could play their way as high as potentially 6th, passing up the Bulls, the Sixers, and the Nets. So one of the Bulls and the Sixers is going to win tonight. The Nets right now are favored. I don't know what the score is. This game tipped off 20 minutes ago. Let me check it right now. Oh, the Nets are actually down against the Wizards, 26-17. So that's surprising. But at the end of the day, man, getting Cooper Flagg or getting, if you like, Ace Bailey, getting the best prospect possible in this draft is going to be much more meaningful than likely losing in the play-in. At the end of the day, why are we caring about the play-in? We were first-round fodder year after year after year. Why do people want to get back to that so desperately right now? I do not understand it. I'll read off some comments. Sean says, there isn't a scenario where getting into the playoffs is what's best for a team because the highest upside of the young players still doesn't make you a contender. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. And I kind of agree with it, right? You still need to add young talent to this team in order to contend someday. You still need to accumulate assets. That's not a conversation we're going to have right now because the trade deadline is passed and it's not the offseason yet, right? But that's the conversation we have at the trade deadline and in the offseason. Accumulate assets so you can make that all-in trade to get to contendership, right? There's still multiple steps that need to be taken to set up this team to grow into a contender. Pushing too hard for a play-in or to be good maybe even next year, I feel like is picking fruit before it's ripe. Picking fruit too early, right? It's not good to eat yet. But you got excited. The fruit started growing. You picked it too early. Gray Hughes says, I don't think they should tank. Play the best you can always. They have the talent to be a playoff team currently. Had they started the season the way they were playing, losing intentionally. Brother, they just lost 4 games in a row and then beat the Hornets. That's the problem when you look at everything in only like a very small sample, is you're going to cherry pick the sample that you want to talk about, right? If I wanted to make the team out like it was really bad, I'd be sitting here saying, yeah, the Blazers are 24-33, but outside of that really good 11-game stretch, they're 14-32. 14-32. But of course, if you just look at that 11-game stretch, yeah, they were 10-1. Really, really good stretch. We got to take the season as a whole in its totality. There's plenty of teams, almost every team in the NBA that's not the Wizards or the Hornets, have a really good stretch where they win a lot of games. That doesn't prove that they're that team. That just means they had a good stretch. The Blazers had a good stretch. They're not as good as where they peaked this season. Right? They had a good stretch. They played a lot of teams on the second night of a back-to-back. They had a ton of home games. They made a lot of shots. They shot probably better than you could expect them to shoot on the season. They had a good stretch, but that's what it was, a good stretch. It's not just who they are. They're not a playoff caliber team. If they're a playoff caliber team, you don't go on the road and get destroyed in the fourth quarter to the Timberwolves with them missing a bunch of guys and the Blazers having a better roster. You just lost to the Lakers without Luka by 8. So The players should not intentionally lose, but at this point, it should be all about getting Scoot and Sharp as many minutes as possible, getting Klingon as many minutes as possible, getting Ryan Repair some minutes. If you lose games, great. That's what I mean by tank. Maybe I should have defined it at the start of this conversation. That's what I mean by tank. Develop those young guys. See if Ryan Repair has taken any steps or grown at all this year. If not, then maybe you move on from him. And Gray says they played good against the Lakers in Denver. They lost by 8 at home to the Lakers without Luka. That's the problem, is if you're holding this team to a playoff caliber standard, losing by the Lakers when they're on the second night of a back-to-back and without Luka at home for a real playoff team would not be a good night. Losing to the Nuggets by, let's see here. Let me pull up the exact margins the Blazers lost by. The Blazers, in their 2 games to Denver, lost by 29 and then 11. A playoff team doesn't say they played well when they lose by 29 and 11 to another playoff team. That's the problem. That's like, if you want to say, yeah, the Blazers are not a playoff caliber team, yeah, okay, you can say they played well against Denver. At least in the second game. But if you're holding them to the status of a legitimate playoff team, that's not a good night then. That's not a good night. So that's the problem, I think, is and this is what you're doing, right? It says, well, we only had one bad quarter. I think the Nuggets game, we outscored them in 3 quarters. I mean, I'll pull up the box score. So the Blazers in the first quarter lost 40-27. In the second quarter lost 35-29. So they were down 19 at half. They cut it to 11. They won the final 2 quarters. The third quarter they won by 3. The fourth quarter they won by 5. A playoff team doesn't sit there down 19 at half and say, oh, at least we cut the deficit to 11. You know what I mean? Like they're just, unfortunately, they're not that good yet. Unfortunately, getting the 10th seed is not, they're very unlikely to get the 10th seed in the first place. And if they do, they're very unlikely to play their way into the playoffs. And then if they somehow miraculously do that, they're going to get destroyed by OKC. I just don't really understand why people want to have a miracle run to get destroyed in the first round. Connor says, one thing that's funny to me is how many anti-tanking people in the years past advised against bottoming out like the Pistons did, but now look at where the Pistons are compared to us. Yeah, they're 31-26. Last year, people were saying you don't want to be the Pistons. That's why you should be happy with what the Blazers are doing. Well, who's much better right now? Who's the legitimate playoff team right now? It's the Pistons. Winners of 6 in a row. Playing the Clippers right now. They're up 4 in the second quarter. If they win, they're going to be 6 games above 500. They're going to be 32-26. Grace says it's fun as hell to make the playoffs. I mean, I don't. Maybe I'm different than a lot of Blazer fans out there. And please, if you have a thought on this, leave it in the chat. But I don't find making the playoffs just to get blown out and lose in 4 games fun. I don't find that fun. When you know you have no chance and you know you're probably not going to win a single game. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just different. I just don't find getting your teeth kicked in fun. Like, Grace says, LOL, but we hope they don't get blown out. Yeah, but that's what's going to happen if you play your way into the 8th seed. Even when Portland had that good 11-game stretch, you know why we weren't calling it an 11-game winning streak? You know why it was only 10 out of 11 wins? It's because the Blazers, as well as they were playing, played really good at home against the OKC Thunder in the middle of that stretch and still lost by 10. When they played about as well as you could hope that they could play against that OKC team and in a stretch where they were playing their best basketball that they could possibly play, they still lost by 10 to OKC. And OKC didn't have Chet Holmgren. And that's kind of goes back to my point. That team is so much more talented. There's like no chance you go in there and you're actually competitive against them yet. ZXZZX says, don't want us to be the Kings, LOL. Yeah, look at the Kings. They go all in for a first round appearance. They're actually competitive in that first round. They lost in 7 against the Warriors. But oh my goodness, they finally broke their playoff drought. They finally made the playoffs. They lost in 7, but they're young. They got exciting things going for them. De'Aaron Fox is no longer a Sacramento King. And now have they made the playoffs since? No. Maybe if they were a little bit more patient and didn't sell out for a playoff run, maybe they would be easily a playoff team right now. And I would rather give up a play-in run this year to make sure we're solidly at least a playoff team for a decade, you know? But that's the problem, is that requires patience. And in sports, that's tough. Grace says, I think the value of playing hard and achieving the goal of making the play-in would be invaluable to this young team. Teaching them how to win in the playoff game would make them work to be better. Brother, this team it better be filled with guys that will work hard, or we have a problem no matter if we make a playing game or not, okay? Like, I just don't follow the logic. This team already plays decently hard. If they need to lose a 9-10 play-in game to work twice as harder this offseason, something's wrong. If they need to get their teeth kicked in by the Thunder to work twice as hard this offseason, something's wrong. Because that means you don't already have hard workers on your team. I don't think that's the case. I think this team will work very hard this offseason. I think this young core is filled with guys that'll work their ass off no matter what. I don't think they need to lose in a play-in or have a miraculous run to get their teeth kicked in by the Thunder in order to work hard this offseason. They would have perspective. None of our young players have made the playoffs. Okay, what does that matter? What does that mean, though? Okay, so they know what it's like to play in a playoff series and get destroyed. How is that perspective so valuable? And we're talking about, I would say there's probably a less than 1% chance they're capable of making it through a play into an 8 seed this year. So yeah, we need to sell out for that 1% chance to gain some perspective. That's what I don't understand. Like, why are we selling out for a 1% chance to gain perspective of what it's like to lose in the first round? If they were already the 9th seed, and you could say, oh yeah, they have a 50-50 chance. All right, fine. Yeah, there are some benefits to a young team being in that position. But the entire point is, it is so unrealistic that they even get to the 8th seed and get into the first round that this team should not be selling out for that. There is much more to gain by having better lottery odds than there is. And the Blazers could maximize their odds to the point where instead of a 1% chance at making it to the 8th seed, they might have a 9 or 10% chance at Cooper Flag. I would rather have the 9 to 10% chance at getting Cooper Flag than to go all in on a 1% chance to make the playoffs and get swept in the first round. That's just the way I view things. I understand if you view it differently. Some people want that experience. Okay. But ultimately, it's what's best for 2027, 2028. I have a question for you, Gray. What do you think is better for the future in this team, hopefully winning a championship in the next decade? What do you think is better? Making a play-in this year, likely losing in it, if not getting swept in the first round by the Thunder if they go on a miraculous run, or getting Cooper Flag? Which is better for the future? In chat, feel free to answer that as well. That's just the way I look at it. And people say, oh, you don't have a good chance of getting Cooper Flag. Okay, well, you have a better chance of getting a second, third, or fourth pick. Also, the chance of getting Cooper Flag at this point is probably the same chance as the Blazers making a play-in. Gray says, I think the odds of getting Cooper Flag are terrible. But the odds of getting a play-in spot are just as bad, and playing your way into the playoffs is even worse, but you don't care about those odds being terrible. That's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. Like, the people that want to go on this magical run don't take into account the very low odds of actually being able to accomplish it, but they'll use the very low odds of getting Cooper Flag to justify it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Connor says, not saying I agree with pushing for a play-in, but I think the process of winning their way to a play-in game is more impactful than actually playing in the play-in games. Yeah. I mean, you hope that they're consistently developing this year. It's kind of hard to say right now after the way they followed up that 11-game win streak with an awful 4 games. Boom, that is correct. If the Blazers made the playoffs, they would lose their pick this year in a good draft. Mr. Random Nobody says, and what difference does it make if the Blazers get a different coach next year too, a different perspective with a lame duck coach? Yeah, I mean, I don't think Chauncey's the right coach for this team. That's the other thing is if they go on a miracle run, he's coming back. Gray says, I want my team to strive to win, and not look position for lottery odds. I get the logic, but I hate it. But here's the thing. Resting certain guys doesn't mean the players try and lose. Okay? You rest certain guys, you play your young players, you let them go out there and try and win games. The roster is going to be worse, but you let them go out there and try and win games. Okay? While also maximizing your odds so that you, in a way, you're striving to win in the future. You're striving to win for the next decade by maximizing your lottery odds. I don't think the Blazers are going to tank anytime soon. I think this upcoming 5-game stretch is going to make it so they might not tank the rest of the year. Ultimately, I think by April, it's going to be clear that they're not going to make a play-in. You look at their schedule in March, okay? At Cleveland, at Philadelphia, at Boston, at OKC, versus Detroit, at Golden State, versus New York. That's just through the first half of March. Blazers are only going to be... The Blazers might not be favored in a single one of those games. The only one they might be favored is at Philadelphia. Other than that, at Cleveland, you're going to be like 10-point underdogs. At Boston, you're going to be 10-point underdogs. At OKC, you're going to be 10-point underdogs. Come home versus Detroit. They're a playoff team right now, and they're playing great basketball. At Golden State, you might be like 8-9-point underdogs. They've been really good with Jimmy Butler. And then come home versus New York. That's what's waiting the Blazers after they get done with this super easy stretch with Utah, Washington, and Brooklyn. That's what's awaiting the Blazers. I fully expect the Blazers to win the next 3 games. People start talking about playing again, getting super excited, and then they just get destroyed at the start of March. Because that's a brutal schedule. They do have 2 games after that, the 16th and 17th against the Raptors and the Wizards at home. Okay, you can probably win both of those games. What do they have after that? At home versus Memphis, at home versus Denver, at home versus Boston, at home versus Cleveland. So I'll repeat the opponents again over March, over this stretch. Cleveland, Philadelphia, Boston, OKC, Detroit, Golden State, New York, Toronto, Washington, Memphis, Denver, Boston, Cleveland. That's an insane stretch. Insanely tough stretch. There is no way, in my opinion, there's no way they come out of that stretch with playing hopes. So what if they win all of them? Wouldn't you be stoked? Let's talk about reality, Gray. Let's talk about reality, man. They're not going to win all of them. I had somebody else telling me they'd win every game in February, and then he disappeared when the Blazers lost 4 straight games in February. Like, they're not going to win all those games. Yeah, I'd be stoked if they could destroy the entire league, yes. If they were capable of destroying the entire league, I would be very, very happy, trust me. See, like, there's no point to even continue this conversation. Gray says, they could, though, man. So you have an issue with the odds to get Cooper Flag being like 5, 6, 7, 8%. Those are terrible odds, but you're going to sit here and tell me they could win all their games in March. I mean, yeah, no, they're like, let's just be real. They're not gonna survive that stretch. I'll sit here and say I'm wrong Tuesday the 25th of March. That's a month from now. You can come back. If they're within, let's just say, 3 games of a play-in spot, you can come in, tell me I'm wrong. I'll admit I'm wrong. You can clip this. You can post it in the Discord, set a reminder, whatever you need to do. Okay? They will not be within 3 games of a play-in spot after the 25th. I don't even think they'll be within 4 games of a play-in spot after the 25th. I think at that point, that stretch, that's when they're going to start tanking. You got DeAndre Ayton's reevaluation date on like March 12th-ish. That's when they play the Knicks before they play the Raptors and Wizards. I think at that point, he's probably still going to be out. You're not going to see him back, if I had to guess. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But yeah. Well, Nick says, yeah, with that schedule, it's like, why bother trying to win? Yeah, exactly. See, instead of playing those road games against Cleveland and Boston and they got a huge home stretch and some bad road games, some bad teams on the road. Charlotte, Orlando was playing terrible. So they had a good 11-game stretch. They would not have won 10 out of 11 games if they were playing at Cleveland, OKC multiple times, versus New York, versus Cleveland, Boston twice, Denver, right? So that's just where they're at in the season. They got 3 easy games, then they got at Cleveland, then they got another pretty easy game in Philadelphia, and then their schedule gets insane. And this is the schedule that I've been talking about on postgame shows, warning you guys about. Like, their schedule gets much, much tougher. So I think, like, realistically, they don't have a chance of the play-in. And yeah. Anyway. Appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll have the post-game show going live after the game. We'll talk to you then. Eric should be here. We can continue this conversation. Appreciate you guys hanging out. We're out of here. Shout out to BetUS. We'll catch you later tonight. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.